You have claimed that you oppose medical transitioning for these children, namely and specifically to what normally happens is puberty blockers, which you have called you called it child abuse. Is that correct?
It is. That's correct.
You consider it okay. You consider it child abuse. You consider it child abuse because you believe that a child is not capable of consenting to what you consider are irreversible procedures. Is that correct?
A damaging, irreversible procedure.
Damaging. Okay. Ben, are your children circumcised? Did you circumcise your children?
Yes, I have two sons and they're both circumcised.
Why would you do that? Isn't that kind of hypocritical?
Nope, I'm circumcised. My works just fine.
Why? Why is violating the bodily autonomy of an infant acceptable to you? And I can say, I'm a owner, and I can tell you, there's sensitivity right there, Ben, that is removed when you do a circumcision. Why is that okay to you?
Well, I don't mean to get personal, but I'm sure it doesn't seem like you could possibly have a basis for comparison. You can't be both circumcised and uncircumcised. You're going to have to choose. As far as the efficacy of a once it's circumcised, if you wish to get into the biology, I'm perfectly happy to just point at my 4 children. I've been fruitful and I've multiplied. It's all working out just great. As for the notion that it is a grave violation of bodily autonomy, I can tell you there are millions of men across time who've been circumcised. This is not a quote-unquote damaging procedure in the same way that, taking a boy and shooting him full of estrogen so you can later cut off his and is. That's an absurd comparison on every level.
When it comes to child medical transitioning, Ben Shapiro doesn't mince words. He draws a clear line, labeling it as irreversible and damaging. The woke argument tries to blur lines with weak comparisons, but Ben stays firm. Consider the impact of irreversible decisions on young lives.
So the idea that suicidality is directly a result of people like me saying, no, men are not women and women are not men, it's not true. It's also...
So you think it doesn't impact their identity at all or their depression or how they feel about themselves?
I think the idea that you're going to sacrifice the entire society's proper definition of sex because you think that there is in legal terms, somebody with an eggshell skull, meaning that somebody who has a pre-existing condition that makes them more susceptible to criticism, that is not a way to run a society. You can't sacrifice truth because some people are going to actually suffer because of the truth. Plus, there's no evidence whatsoever that the suicide rate would go down in the transgender community in any marked way if people just started pretending that men were women and women were men. We're trying that experiment now. We'll find out whether it works. So far, no evidence.
Woke culture wants to twist reality to avoid hurt feelings, but ignoring facts won't solve deep issues. Sacrificing truth for comfort isn't progress. It's a dangerous game. We need honest conversations, not illusions.
You mentioned Leah Thomas. I mean, that race where Leah Thomas is 2 pool lengths ahead of all of the women. People are like, this is an amazing female performance. This is just incredible. It's like the same thing happening right here. I mean, you watch this particular video, and at the beginning, the male is not on the screen. You're like, where's the dude? And then the male comes on the screen. That's
for sure.
You mean the very, very tall human who's significally taller and stronger than everybody else out there? Yeah. And that person apparently put this in their college reel.
Really?
He put it in his college reel. Because it's a high school thing. I think that they were trying. This person was trying to apply for a female scholarship at a college and put it in their highlight reel, just spiking a ball directly into the face of a woman, which normally would be classified as some form of abuse, is now apparently athletic prowess. So I mean, it's astonishing.
This isn't about athletic prowess. It's about fairness. When biological differences are ignored, it raises serious questions. How long can we pretend this is equitable? Woke culture's obsession with inclusion is blurring reality. Time to ask, is this truly fair competition? Before we continue, if you're enjoying The Takedown, make sure to subscribe to Woke Watch for more no-nonsense critiques on today's woke culture. Ben Shapiro isn't the only voice tearing into the woke narrative. Let's dive into how Bill Maher, known for his bold critiques, joins the discussion with his unique style. Raw debates on hot-button issues.
And the capacity for cruelty is a human thing, not a white thing. That's the truth, even though it doesn't jibe with the current narrative. But in today's world, when truth conflicts with narrative, it's the truth that has to apologize. Being woke is like a magic moral time machine where you judge everybody against what you imagine you would have done in 1066, and you always win.
Folks love to play pretend heroes from the past. Bill Maher sees right through that. It's easy to judge history from your couch, but would they really have acted differently back then? Doubtful.
The problem with communism and with some very recent ideologies here at home is that they think you can change reality by screaming at it, that you can bend human nature by holding your breath. But that's the difference between reality and your mommy.
Woke culture thinks shouting can change reality, but life isn't a tantrum. Human nature isn't swayed by noise. True change requires more than just loud voices and empty threats.
It's not me who's changed. It's the left, who is now made up of a small contingent who've gone mental and a large contingent who refuse to call them out for it. But I will. That's why I'm a hero at Fox these days.
Maher's got a point. He hasn't changed, but the left sure has. Once champions of progress, they've veered into absurdity. Now, calling out the madness makes him a hero at Fox News. It's not Maher shifting right. It's the left diving into the twilight zone.
I can't believe I wore that. I can't believe I thought that. I can't believe I did that. You ate dirt. You wanted to be a Ghostbuster. You shoplifted gum. You tried to be a white breakdancer. You wanted to marry Scott Baio. I read Ayn Rand. I smoked. I was into numerology. Yes, because we hadn't then grown into the persons we would become. And humanity writ large is just the collective version of that. Did Columbus commit atrocities? Of course. But people back then were generally atrocious. Everybody who could afford one had a slave, including people of color. The way people talk about slavery these days, you'd think it was a uniquely American thing that we invented in 1619. But slavery throughout history has been the rule, not the exception.
Yelling doesn't change reality, folks. The woke think screaming bends human nature. Spoiler, it doesn't. Real life doesn't care about tantrums. Wake up and face the facts instead of living in fantasy.
It's not my fault that the party of FDR and JFK is turning into the party of LOL and WTF. Members of Congress tweeting things like cancel rent, cancel mortgage, and no more policing or incarceration, declaring that capitalism is slavery, canceling Lincoln and Dr. Seuss, teaching children they're oppressors and math is racist, making Mr. Potato Head gender neutral, and now an emoji for pregnant men. Real, I'm not making it up. California just passed a law requiring large retailers to have a non-gendered toy section. A non-gendered toy section? Isn't Ken enough?
Woke culture's absurdity is skyrocketing. Canceling history, labeling math as racist, and rebranding toys. The demand for a gender-neutral world is confusing, not empowering. It's time to question where this madness leads us.
I think the younger generations have a real problem with wanting to build their identity around being a victim. They want to have racism to fight, not fight racism. Have racism to fight. So badly that when it's not there, they make it up. And there's enough real racism in the world that making up more doesn't help.
Today's youth seem obsessed with victimhood, almost inventing issues when real challenges exist. Instead of solving problems, they fixate on imaginary battles. It's a distraction from tackling genuine racism.
And never forget, children are impressionable and very, very stupid. Kids don't know why mom drinks every day or why dad has 2 cell phones. Maybe the boy who thinks he's a girl is just gay, or whatever Frasier was. Maybe the girl who hates girly stuff just needs to learn that being female doesn't mean you have to act like a Kardashian. Maybe childhood makes you sad sometimes, and there are other solutions besides hand me the dick saw. And look, I'm sure the vast majority of parents do not take this lightly, and that it's very hard to know when something is real or just a phase. And I understand being trans is different, it's innate. But kids do also have phases. They're kids, it's all phases. The dinosaur phase, the Hello Kitty phase. One day they want to be an astronaut, the next day you can't get them to leave their room. Gender fluid, kids are fluid about everything. If kids knew what they wanted to be at age 8, the world would be filled with cowboys and princesses. I wanted to be a pirate. Thank God nobody took me seriously and scheduled me for eye removal and peg leg surgery.
Kids are figuring things out, and they're bound to change their minds. Let's not rush into drastic decisions based on temporary feelings. Woke culture needs to slow down and let kids be kids. Remember, questioning today's woke narratives isn't about hate, it's about truth. Stay tuned to Woke Watch by subscribing below.